The calls that I picked up just before this were SEO generated.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Smart Talk, where we help you go from truck to CEO by working smarter, not harder. I'm your host, Anatoly Zubia. Today's question is simple, but it should really bother you. Why are some moving company websites getting 500 visitors while others get 5,000, some even 50,000? And more importantly, what are they doing that you're not? I'm joined by Alex Bernard, owner of Direct Moving Group. He didn't come from the moving industry. He actually came from wealth management and tech. 2 years into the moving business, he made a decision most movers delay. He went all in on SEO, search engine optimization. 6 months later, he's already seen hundreds of leads come in. Alex, welcome to Smart Talk. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I didn't come from moving originally. I came from sales and finance. And just after coronavirus, my industry just wasn't working out so well. It was sluggish with what was going on. Then I saw an opportunity in moving. Something that stood out to me very early on is that the most successful moving companies are the ones that really have their marketing and their sales locked in. That's kind of the mindset that I was trying to focus on once I came into moving.
Yeah, you came in with really fresh eyes. You pulled out the pieces that were the most successful inside of the industry and keyed in on that. That's why I wanted to chat with you today about SEO. Most movie companies, they don't actually prioritize SEO early. They're busy putting together the business. They end up waiting, or they're buying leads, or they
Yeah.
focus on ops, right?
Mhm.
So why did you lean in? And what are some of those other owners missing by delaying it?
Early on, when you're starting a company, you're playing catch up in almost all the areas at the same time. So your focus is limited, whether it's on the sales side or the marketing side or the operation side, because it keeps you very, very busy. I was fortunate enough to have colleagues or former bosses once I opened a company that were much more developed in terms of years of being in the industry. This is best practice. These are things that you need to do because clearly it's working. One of the things that stood out to me early on was this SEO component that these successful companies had. Obviously, at the beginning, one of the best points of entry actually is buying leads. So I won't belittle the lead channel at all, because for the most part, especially in season, it's very effective. But if you want to take on more jobs and you want to diversify and you want to survive winter better, being able to take on an SEO channel and develop it into something fruitful becomes very, very important. And SEO is it's a part of business that most movers have no idea about. It's only when they realize many years down the line, I'm limited here, what else can we do? Then they take that on. The SEO is essentially about being able to communicate to Google that you have a lot of content that is useful for relevant users. And the more that you can communicate that to Google, the more in return that they will display your content, your website, in order to satisfy and help people that are looking for movers, for tips on how to pack, or all the, prepare for a move, all these different things. SEO is one of the least understood channels. It is, it, the, the foundations of it it's very simple, but it can get very technical very quickly. What I suggest for most people is that it's definitely worth putting in some time to develop an SEO channel, because the ROI is one of the best out of all the channels that you can have once you get it going. The way I look at it is, if you can put in a minimum amount of effort and time in understanding how the foundations work, then you don't need to worry too much about when things get complicated and technical, because you can outsource that to an agency. With hindsight, looking into it, I spent the first good year trying to learn about SEO myself, and I built my first website myself, arguably with not a great level of success in terms of the leads generated and the amount of jobs booked on a monthly basis. But what it did do is it really helped me get my good founding of how SEO works. And then when you decide to work with an agency afterwards, all these different metrics that they're going to talk to you about, you can actually follow, and you can understand, are they actually furthering the business? My 2 cents to any moving owner that's not familiar with SEO but has been thinking about that is, just try and get a good foundation first. You'll pick things up on the go to start working with an agency, and they'll handle the technicals.
Some great advice. Golden advice, really, is learning those KPIs so you know how to have that conversation with the agency, understanding ROI. The way I've always described SEO to people, it's long distance running and constantly training and tweaking, but you're not sprinting until the final piece of it. And so SEO is your long distance runner. If you're not doing it, you're falling behind on that. And it's a lot harder to build. SEO takes a lot longer to build, but it's that more like stable playbook there versus like buying a lead. That's your sprint, right? Like you can buy leads, that's a sprint, but it only goes so far.
No, it's true, Anatai, and because normally people will want to defer SEO until they're established, which is
Yes.
kind of the direction I was heading at the beginning. Buying leads is much more easily understood. Getting involved in SEO is much more complicated, and actually, minimum budgets with agencies are in the many thousands to get started. For most people, understandably so, when they're starting out, it kind of scares them. Of like, okay, well, review that at a later point in time. The thing is with the SEO though, is that it takes a good amount of time before you start to see the results. So let's say you're a new owner, you're finding, momentum for about a year. SEO is something you start to consider. And then maybe 6 months down the line, you decide to start to work with an agency, start developing SEO. But then it might take another 6 months or a year before you start to find any sort of reliable lead gen from that channel. And the earlier you start, the better, because if you're serious about being in the business for the long term, then it will take some time to find momentum.
I think this is a big takeaway is SEO is going to take a while. It's not like going and buying a lead where you see that instantaneous return. This is a long-term investment that pays off in dividends. So think
Yeah.
of it that way. Don't get frustrated when you're like, well, I've been doing this for 2 weeks and I'm not seeing anything. It's a little bit of a different investment that way. So if any of you are watching this and you've seen any kind of SEO traction, like big or small, like drop your wins down in the comments. Let's share what's working for each other. I think those plays are what's really interesting. Google's changing their algorithm all the time, right? But
Very much.
this is one of those areas where like small improvements, they can compound fast. And that's where I want to go a little deeper with you, Alex. A lot of people when I'm talking to like about SEO, they're focusing on the wrong things, right? It's like
Mhm.
tweaking pages or like diving into adjusting keywords and fixing all these technical issues. And it gets down into like the grit, but like you've had some different insights with your experience on what actually earns authority and you see it in your results, right? Like
Yeah.
what actually gets somebody from 500 to 5,000 to 50,000 visitors.
Yeah, this is an excellent question, and it's not a question that I asked myself when I got involved with SEO at the start. It was really once I started working with an agency after a good number of months, and then fortunately having a lot of colleagues around me that had more developed websites and businesses with an SEO channel specifically, that I was able to really get like a condensed understanding. The long story short is in SEO, there's really three areas. So there's on page, which is everything to do with like content, what's visible in a website. So all the pages, site structure, all the rest. So that's part one. Part two is technical SEO. So it's essentially ensuring that Google is able to crawl your pages, meaning to find them, to be able to index them, and then giving your website and your pages alongside the chance to show up and rank for certain queries and making sure it's loading quickly and things like that. And then there's the last part, which is the off page, which is mainly centered around backlinks. And what I wish someone told me earlier on is when a website is new, the most important things are on page SEO and technical SEO. What you really need to get started is a really good foundation, make sure that it not only are readers able to take a look at your website and be able to interact with it so that way they can find it beneficial to them, but also so that way Google can understand it too. You could have the best content in the world or in the industry, but if Google's not able to crawl, meaning to actually search for your website amongst its entire database, and then it's not able to index that and then serve that as a result in the queries that people search for. This is by far the most important thing: is technical and on-page SEO at the beginning. And if there's a website that's been established already and it has bad content or has problems with the technical, then that's the very first thing you should work on. Once that's done, you could have really good content. You could have service area pages covering absolutely every city in the US. Anatai, you're based in Arizona. We could create
Mhm.
50 or 100 service area pages, some of the best content you'd ever see. And I'd probably end up with a job in SmartMoving quickly after that, and be like, okay, we need this guy on the team. That
I'll tell our HR crew right now.
please do. Please do. But
Right.
it's not enough. Although it creates the foundation, then you need the framing. And where that comes from is off page, or also known as backlinks. Assuming that, you have two websites, both of them have decent on page and technical SEO, and one generates very little traffic and the other one generates some interesting amount of traffic, let's say 500 visitors a month, or 1,000. The main explanation is going to be with off page SEO, or backlinks. This took me a lot of time to figure that out in terms of the sequence of operations, which parts of SEO are important and at what timings. Some moving companies out there like United Van Lines, right? They have a huge amount of authority score. They have a huge amount of traffic. If you actually take a look at their content, it's not revolutionary. It's interesting, but it doesn't explain why they have tens of thousands of organic visitors a month. The reason there is they've had a huge amount of years to build an enormous amount of backlinks. And actually, if you take a look on SEMrush or Ahrefs, which are some of the best tools to work with when it comes to evaluating backlinks and authority scores of websites, you'll notice that they have thousands and thousands and thousands of backlinks. I wish someone told me about this too. Not all backlinks are created equal. It's not just about trying to acquire as many links as you can. Google figured that out. It's about
Yes.
being targeted, just like in marketing,
Yes.
about understanding what kind of links are going to benefit the website. What I recommend is um, the sites linking back to you in order to transfer what they call link juice to actually boost your own domain score. That Google will favor enormously when it comes to ranking for more and more terms and also more competitive terms. You need to make sure that you're getting backlinks that are, number one, have a decent domain rating or authority score, has a decent amount of traffic, organic traffic. These are some of the big things that Google looks at. It's sending a signal. This is a legit website, and they're getting good quality, or what they call HQ, or high quality backlinks to link to them. So decent or good authority score, domain score, organic search traffic, ideally at least 500, 1,000 plus. Another one as well is topical authority. So when one website's linking to your website, it's very important that it has some sort of relevance in terms of the niche. So for instance, in moving, what you're really looking for are sites that are going to link to you that are related in, let's say, real estate or construction or home improvement, do it yourself, local media, news channels, travel, city guides, and even moving and relocation related websites themselves. And these can be checked. And in case people are wondering, when you're getting backlinks, you can actually look at that through like Ahrefs or SEMrush. And I'm guessing Anatai might even include
I'll drop the links to those two tools in the comments for y'all.
an interesting statistic is 3% of websites generate like 95% of all the traffic or something like that. And a lot of that explanation is to do with the SEO structure, right? So focusing on good on page and technical to start with, and then the backlinks once you have that foundation. The people who've taken the 3% or 4% of websites out there, regardless of the industry, that have taken that traffic, they understand this, the formula of how it works. So
Exactly. I hope our listeners are taking notes. And if you weren't, you can listen to that all again so that you get it. I mean, I'm a marketer by trade and live and breathe in SEO all day long. And it's about building authority. And I think a big part of that is, I love that you keyed on relevance. If you're not being useful, you're just being noisy. And they've learned to ignore you. Building that authority is what turns traffic into the opportunity that you want. Everybody has a varied skill set in their business. And a lot of owners, they think they've got to go chisel this out by themselves, building the wheel like a caveman. But you didn't go it alone, right? Where did you focus your time and where did you bring in help?
what a lot of people will do, if they say, for instance, like, I'm not an IT guy, but they understand the importance and relevance of SEO to their business and to the marketing and sales side of things, then they'll just immediately hire an agency but know nothing about it. My view is that's a problem, especially with the sort of money that's involved and what you're paying agencies for. Even small amounts of work with an agency is still thousands a month. And to not be able to communicate with these people, at least at a foundational level, I think is a real problem. And there's going to be a very quickly a disconnect between I can't follow what they're doing. I don't know if it's really working, aside from just seeing some jobs coming in. And I just don't see that relationship with SEO going very far because what you pointed out, Anatai, at the beginning, it takes time. So there are a number of metrics that are visible before the leads start pouring in and the bookings start coming in, but you need a foundation in SEO to understand what those are because otherwise they're just going to give you a bunch of reports on a monthly basis. You won't be able to understand almost any of it. And you'll be asking yourself, where are the leads? Where are the leads? So get yourself a foundation, even if it means you spending a few hours learning SEO just for a few weeks. And then the moving world it's a community. You know other business owners and you know some people that are killing it, right? Find out why, find out what channels they're using. I'm sure SEO is going to be a common theme there. And then the ones that do mention that, ask their advice, maybe even get a referral as to an agency that would be able to help you with this. I would definitely not recommend doing this alone because even if you wanted to do everything yourself, there's so many different things to do. You'll need a team.
Alex, you're sharing so much great information. I want to put some bullet points to this because I'm sitting here in my head taking notes going, man, this is golden. Here's your key takeaways, movers. Start SEO earlier than you think because it takes longer to build. And don't lose hope because it does. It takes longer to get the results. Focus on the authority, not just pages and keywords. There's those 3 areas that Alex outlined. If you missed them, go back in the video, write those down and remember what those 3 are. And don't go it alone. And I think you gave some great options. You don't have to go out and hire an agency tomorrow. You have a community to go and ask questions to. And you can get much, much deeper having those conversations from early learnings inside the industry. Also, if you wanted to go deeper, we have a complete guide to SEO. It's linked below. And it actually shows you some tips and tricks on building traffic, authority, getting consistent inbound leads from your website. And it's a great primer. Alex, before I sign off, any last words of wisdom for our entrepreneurs out there in the moving industry?
In moving, there's not that many lead channels that work, that really work or that you can consistently rely on, right? Whether it's season time, winter time, tough times, good times. And when you speak to those companies that are very successful, they might have about 10 or 15 channels. But if you dig into it, there's only a few channels where they really make money from. And SEO, once it's developed, will always be included in the conversation.
Our movers out there listening, if you want more great content like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you always get these updates. If you want to hear stuff like this live and have time to get out into the industry and talk to other folks that are building up SEO and doing other great things with their moving companies, definitely come to Summit October 8th through the 11th. We've got real movers, real strategies, and a couple days that'll really change not just the way you run your business, but the way you're looking at it and working on it. So you can get your tickets, summit.smartmoving.com. Alex, thank you so much for being here with us, taking time. He was answering calls in between this. He's busy. So I just want to say I appreciate you taking time out to talk to us and share your knowledge.
Yep.
You're absolutely fantastic.
Also, what I wanted to add is that the calls that I picked up just before this were SEO generated.
Exactly. You hear that, you guys?
Yep.
There you go. Success story on the mark. Thanks, Alex, for being here. Until next time, everyone, work smarter, not harder.